Our story begins with Bran as he travels with the Reed siblings north to find the three-eyed crow to the end of the world. Mira, sensing Bran's terror, tries to reassure him. It's only another castle. But this is no ordinary castle. This is the Night Fort. It has been abandoned for some 200 years by the Night's Watch because of their dwindling numbers and lack of resources to properly maintain it. But even after centuries of decay and rot, the Night Fort felt alive, as if it was still housing a nagging and ominous presence. The Night King was twice the size of Castle Black, but by the time Bran, Mira, and Jojen were passing through, all you could see were crumbling towers, roofs with holes, and an eerie sense that it was watching you, waiting for you to let your guard down. Or maybe it wasn't the castle, but a something lurking in the shadows. The Night Fort doesn't see many visitors, but in its vast maze of tunnels, you can find the Black Gate, a magical gate made of white weirwood with a face staring and watching. It allows passage to the brothers of the Night's Watch through the wall, and that's where they need to go, to the lands of always winter, beyond the wall. But at this moment, all Bran could think of were the stories old Nan told him when he lived in Winterfell. Tales of horror that survived longer than its monstrous towers. Tales of Night Kings, White Walkers, and things that come in the night. Today, I want to talk about what we know about the thing that came in the night. And to be honest, George R.R. Martin doesn't give us much, but we can use clues and quotes and sightings to hopefully piece together what kind of horrifying creature this thing is and why it captures the imagination of the Northerners of Westeros hundreds or maybe even thousands of years later. Bran tells us a majority of the known information regarding the thing that came in the night in A Storm of Swords. He tells us the story of when the Night Fort was occupied by the Night's Watch, and how a few apprentice boys saw what they claimed a something that came in the night. They told their Lord Commander at the time of the thing they saw, but each boy's description was slightly different than the last. Surely the Lord Commander paid them no mind because they are boys after all, with wild imaginations that scare easily. But after a year, it's been told 3 boys were dead and the 4th went mad. We aren't told specifically how they died or why the 4th went mad, but old Nan led Bran to believe that it was because of the thing that came in the night, and it came for them again. It has been said that if you see the thing in the night, you will also see the boys behind it in chains, helpless to escape and destined to live an eternal life of servitude to the thing. This is all we're really told about the thing that came in the night, which isn't much, like we've said. But if you know about the history of the Night Fort, you will see the clues hidden within Bran's story, and we can use those clues to theorize a bit more deeply as to what the thing that came in the night was and what it wants. In a previous video of mine, I go through the history of the Night Fort and discuss the probably most defining story of its history, the story of the Night King. In an effort to give you a short synopsis here, the Night Fort is infamous because it at one point was ruled by the Night King, who was also the Lord Commander of the Night's Watch at the time, who fell in love with a corpse queen and took her as his bride, betraying his oath as a brother and becoming something close to a White Walker himself. He was only in power for 13 years during the Age of Heroes, but Bran the Breaker and Jormund the King Beyond the Wall temporarily joined forces to free the Night Fort from the Night King's rule. The Night was his rule, but when his rule came to an end, stories of his treachery and evil left a permanent stain on the Night Fort ever since. Many who lived in the castle after its liberation claimed it to be filled with ghosts and other spooky apparitions. The stain of its past was too massive to be contained within its walls. I bring this story of the Night's Force infamous past up because in the present day of Planetos, we've seen White Walkers make their appearance known to characters within the story. There is no doubt they do exist and they are building their forces, but it makes me wonder, with the vast maze of tunnels that lie beneath the castle, is it possible that maybe one or a small group of White Walkers survived beyond the Night King and quietly lurked and watched until the day they were ready to reveal themselves to man? George R.R. Martin has a tendency in the novels to provide us with half clarity on certain things, and the Whites are one of them. We know they exist, but we don't really know much beyond that. How were they created? How do they stay alive? Do they have the lifespan of humans, or can they live for centuries? Slowly and patiently building their forces and planning their resurrection? Or is it possible that present-day White Walkers have somehow managed to travel back and forth over or through the wall? I do not try to take into account story beats that happen in the TV show, but it wouldn't surprise me that some of the magical barrier not visible to humans is holding the White Walkers back. Or it could simply be that it isn't yet cold enough in Westeros for them to travel south. As the Stark words say, winter is coming, so maybe they have to wait for winter to leave their lands of endless winter to ravage the lands of men. But there is one last thing that I do want to point out, and it's a theory regarding the Night's King. His story and what we see the present-day White Walkers doing show parallels to the avatar of the Great Other. If you aren't already familiar, the religion of R'hllor tells us that there is a god opposite to the Lord of Light, the Great Other. This god of darkness, night, and terror has a name, but it is never spoken. And these two gods wage an eternal war over the fate of the world. Fire, heat, and the color red are associated with worshippers of the Lord of Light, while darkness, cold, and death are associated with the worshippers of the Great Other. We can think of the avatar of the Great Other in the same vein we think of Azor Ahai, being the avatar or champion of R'hllor, and destined to stop the Great Other from destroying the world. The Great Other is the one to bring the winter, the one to bring the night, and this god assigns an avatar of flesh to build the army of White Walkers needed to defeat R'hllor. We've seen the White Walkers in the books now grow their strength by accepting sacrifices from, for example, Craster, and it is said that even the Night King did this as well. He made sacrifices to the others and the Avatar of Darkness. But I wonder if it's possible that the Night King at that point was an other, possibly even the Avatar himself of the Great Other. Now, I know that we've departed very far from the original topic of this video with the thing that came in the night, but with everything we've covered, it makes me wonder whether the thing is a White Walker and possibly the Avatar of the Great Other. If the thing came in the night was spotted with boys he killed in chains a century after they died, wouldn't it make sense to think it could be the Avatar of Darkness? He can make new whites, so maybe it's possible. There aren't many sightings of this thing that came in the night, and the whites are known to stay a bit low-key, so it makes sense to me that there aren't many sightings to begin with. So to me, it's not really a far-fetched stretch to say, hey, maybe this thing in the night is in fact a white, and preserving itself because it may not be able to overpower the men that were in the Night Fort at the time. Now, I have heard George R.R. Martin claim that his novels, A Song of Ice and Fire, aren't fantasy novels as one would assume, but rather sci-fi novels. And this statement has always been very fascinating to me because how could these stories of knights and castles and kings and realms be sci-fi? But I go back to the Stark words and I remember winter is coming, and it becomes a bit more clear to me. This world is dictated by a very foreign seasonal system, likely influenced by astronomical bodies. When we think about our weather, our seasons are dictated by our rotation around the sun, and they're also very predictable. However, we don't see that in Planetos. We see summers that last for years, and we see winters that can last an entire generation. We've been told of children born in winter only knowing the cold for their entire lives. So looking at the story through this sci-fi lens makes certain plot points a bit more clear, because the overarching inciting incident that is yet to come in the novels comes down to one looming thing: winter is coming. So yes, it might be accurate to say A Song of Ice and Fire is foundationally a sci-fi novel with a fantasy overcoat. And honestly, I love digging into these stories and reading between the lines to find new nuggets of information or lore. These novels are an absolute treasure trove of things to explore below the surface, and this is why A Song of Ice and Fire is probably my favorite series of novels, hands down. The world feels rich and lived in, something I very much appreciate. I can honestly go on and on about how much I love the novels, but I think I should probably wrap up this video because it's been a complete overload of information. And when I first started writing this script, I had no idea it would go on for so long, but there were so many clues and possible correlations that I couldn't not bring them up because they were just so interesting. So let me know what you think. Is the thing in the night a White Walker? Is it the avatar of the Great Other? Does Bran have a real reason to worry while they pass through the Night Fort to get to the Black Gate? Let's get a discussion going below, and if there are other topics similar to these you'd like me to discuss in further detail, please let me know. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again.